Goodness knows you've been looking long enough. With the Volvo XC90, you've finally found what you've been looking for. A luxury SUV with seating for up to 7 people and loads of cargo space. Not to mention premium technology, including Google Maps, Google Assistant and Google Play. The Volvo XC90 is what you're looking for. Now at special run-out pricing from $99,990 plus on-roads. Visit Volvo Cars and discover why the XC90 is the vehicle for right now.
You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB. The only place for the big names, the big issues, the big controversies, and the big conversations. It's all on Weekend Sport with Jason Pine on your home of sport. News Talk ZB.
Kia ora, good afternoon, welcome in. This is the Sunday edition of Weekend Sport on News Talk ZB, January 26. Happy birthday, ice hockey megastar Wayne Gretzky. Happy birthday, Jose Mourinho. And happy birthday to a New Zealand cricket cult hero, Chris Pringle, celebrating today. What about that over to Bruce Reid all those years ago? I'm Jason Pine, show producer Andy McDonald. We're here until 3 talking sport. T20 franchise leagues continue to tempt our best cricketers to become globetrotters. The Aussie Big Bash just about finished. The final tomorrow night. The International League T20 is underway in the UAE. Goes for another couple of weeks. So too the South African T20 competition and the Bangladesh Premier League. Soon the IPL will roll around again. The Caribbean Premier League, Major League Cricket in the US, the 100 in the UK. New Zealand wicketkeeper batsman Tim Seifert is along shortly. He's just finished playing for the Melbourne Renegades in the Big Bash and has gone straight to the UAE for the ILT20. 4 days after his last game for the Renegades, he played his first one for the Sharjah Warriors. He must wonder sometimes when he wakes up what day it is and what country he's in. Looking forward to chatting to Tim Seifert about the life of a globe-trotting T20 cricketer and whether he still has aspirations to play for New Zealand, which I'm almost certain that he does. Keen also to chat to you about a couple of T20 matters. We'll get to those. Other issues around today. X Games gold medalist in the slopestyle, Luca Harrington, is with us out of Aspen to reflect on his somewhat unexpected success yesterday. We've got our women's champion at the Australian Tennis Open. Madison Keys has won her first major. Men's final tonight, Sinner v Zverev. Craig Gabriel out of Melbourne on that after 1. Logan Rogerson from Auckland FC ahead of their A-League football clash with Western Sydney Wanderers a bit later on this evening. Final stage of cycling's Tour Down Under in Adelaide this afternoon. A number of Kiwis involved. Del Woodford breaks that down for us. James McConey as well in his regular Sunday slot around 1:45. But a live sport while we're on the air in the form of Super Smash Cricket. They're back at Hagley Oval in Christchurch. Canterbury against CD. The women are underway at 12:40. Now, CD can't make the top 3 in the women's for next weekend's final series. Canterbury need to win to keep their hopes alive. And then the men's game follows at 4:25. By contrast, CD are already confirmed for finals weekend at the Basin next weekend. But like their women's side, the Canterbury men need to win to keep their hopes alive. We'll keep eyes on Hagley Oval for you this afternoon. Please feel free to get in touch at any time if you would like to. 0800 80 10 80 get you through on the phone. 9292 if you'd like to send a text or emails to jason@newstalkzb.co.nz. Just gone 10 past midday.
The scoop from the track, field and the court on your home of sport. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine. News Talk ZB.
New Zealand wicketkeeper batsman Tim Seifert has enjoyed a very solid first taste of the Australian Big Bash competition with the Melbourne Renegades.
Seifert takes a hanger. Another hat-trick attempt here. The Canes are crumbling in Geelong. Seifert takes a beauty. 6 for 32. Climbs into that. That is large from Seifert. Got it on the length he was after. Second decker from the Kiwi.
Tim Seifert is with us from the UAE, where he is now with the Sharjah Warriors. Want to talk about Big Bash first, Tim. Thanks for joining us. Fox Cricket named you in their team of the season for the Big Bash. How do you reflect on your first Big Bash campaign?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, it was a good tournament. I think it was one of those tournaments that you look back and it was a good tournament, but you always look to do better and could have definitely done better in some games. But that's sometimes the nature of the beast. But on the whole, really enjoyed my first Big Bash and did it well for the team, which helps as well.
You've been playing T20 cricket for over a decade now, 240 plus matches. You reckon you've got your batting game pretty much worked out now?
Yeah, to be honest, you're always learning, and that's one exciting thing about playing in all these leagues around the world, that you are playing with and against the world's best players. So, learning from them is also part of been involved in some of these teams. But yeah, look, I think the experience, like anything, no matter what you do, your game gets better and the confidence you have gets bigger as well. So yeah, very happy where my game is at the moment, and hopefully it can keep on going for another decade.
Let's hope so. I remember watching you early in your T20 career. You'd play a lot of scoops and ramp shots. Now I'm watching you're more of a power hitter. Has the way you bat in T20 cricket evolved and changed much over the years?
I don't think it's changed too much. I think it's just understanding when those shots, are to come out and when it's sometimes a high risk. Playing all those, scoops and reverse sweeps, they put pressure on the bowler, but they're also high risk shots. So it's about just, picking the right times to do them, rather than just kind of having that as your first option and hoping for the best. So it's probably about more planning who you're going to play, when you're going to use it, which will help that consistency.
And alongside your batting, keeping wicket as well, you're still putting plenty of work into your wicket keeping?
Yeah, I do. I think that's one of my other sides that, for these teams is huge. So it's not just playing as a batter, play as a wicketkeeper as well, but also if there was a local wicketkeeper or someone else is keeping, just playing as a batter and fielding. So it's always nice having, two options for the selectors to pick you. So yeah, definitely working hard on my keeping still.
How different is wicket keeping in T20 cricket when really only a handful of deliveries are actually going to come through to you?
Yeah, it's a funny one. You don't touch the ball much in T20 cricket, but when you do, it's more likely an opportunity that potentially could change the game. So, and it's mentally, expecting every ball is going to come to you, unlike kind of red ball cricket or one day cricket. You just get the ball more often, so mentally it's not as tough because you're getting that ball. But T20, it's all upstairs, thinking that you are going to get the ball. So when you do get that opportunity, you take the opportunity. And
bowlers always trying new things in T20, aren't they? Lots of variations. I imagine that's about as difficult for you as a wicketkeeper as it is for a batsman.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely the format that the bowlers are changing up their deliveries the most. That's where, as a keeper, you don't try and guess what they're bowling. You just, have a steady base, and hopefully that base allows you to react as fast as possible and get those opportunities.
So as you say, this is your first season just completed in the Big Bash, but it's a 2-year contract with the Renegades, isn't it? So you'll be back next summer?
Yeah, definitely be back next year. Touch wood, no injuries or any of that. But yeah, it's always nice having a 2-year deal. Some of these franchises you're only in for 6 weeks and tournament's over and you go again. So it's nice to kind of build some relationships, get to know the guys, the facilities. Marvel Stadium is the wicket as well. So yeah, very excited to go back next year, and hopefully it's a better year for us.
It's a really big league, Tim, isn't it? The Big Bash, full of stars. Did you have any pinch me moments across the last few weeks?
Yeah, it does, because it's definitely a tournament. When you're back home in New Zealand, it's definitely a tournament that's watched. So you've been watching the Big Bash for many years, watching guys like Brendan McCullum and Chris Gale and all those superstars playing in the Big Bash. So it was definitely a tournament I would have loved to tick off, and to be involved in it. It's as good as what I thought. The crowds, I think lowest crowd was 20,000. The atmosphere is just electric. It's just a great environment to play in.
And the life of a T20 franchise cricketer, your life, means you're straight from there into the International League T20 in the UAE with the Sharjah Warriors. It was only a couple of days, wasn't it, between matches for you? Do you ever sort of wake up and wonder where you are?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, so I arrived here the other day, 3 days ago, and a bit of jet lag, and I did wake up wondering where I was. So I had to kind of have a little reminder that I've just landed in Dubai. But yeah, that's all part and parcel of it. There's so many tournaments around the world. Doesn't mean you're going to get picked up. You still have to be performing and doing all that. But if you are, opportunities do come about, and yeah, it's awesome that these opportunities are coming about for me. And yeah, the old miles is getting up.
I bet they are. It's such a fast and furious life, isn't it? The Big Bash is still going. The final's tomorrow night. You're already on to a different tournament, so the overlap is there. Obviously, you'll be disappointed not to be in the Big Bash final, but is it weird to think that you're just on to the next one sort of just like that?
Yeah, disappointing not to be in finals, and every tournament that you are involved in, you want to go all the way and win it. But at the same time, if you do get knocked out, when you do get knocked out, I think there's 5 tournaments going on at the moment around the world. So with that many tournaments, there's always people getting injured or opportunities coming up. So players that are available do get a phone call and you're away onto these tournaments. So it's great. Also from a cricketing point of view, you got to adapt as fast as possible. Pitches in Australia are completely different from pitches here in Dubai, and you might not have a training in between to get used to them. So yeah, you got to move fast on your feet.
I think we're all pretty familiar with the Big Bash, but the International League T20 is a newer competition. What's the standard like?
Yeah, it's good. So it's a bit of a different one compared to all the other tournaments. So you're allowed 9 overseas players. So and you're allowed 2, and you have to have 2 local UAE players. So it's a high standard because a lot of overseas players all around the world. And yeah, I've only played 1 game, but we got a game this afternoon. So against fellow Kiwi Lockie Ferguson. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. But yeah, it's been a great standard from what I've seen.
And you mentioned before, Tim, 5 different franchise leagues going on at this time of the year, the Big Bash, the ILT20 over in South Africa, Bangladesh and others. And with them falling where they do at this time in the calendar, can you see yourself playing much or any cricket for New Zealand or even for Northern Districts in the next few seasons? Or do you think that ship has now sailed?
No, definitely not. So yeah, finish here. Start of Feb, and then I'll come back, play for Northern Districts and the remaining remaining 1-day games and 4-day games. So look, I still want to play for New Zealand. Still want to play New Zealand and T20s and ODIs, and one of my big goals is try and make the next T20 World Cup and ODI World Cup in a few years. I think the T20 World Cup's next year, and then the 1-day World Cups in a couple of years after that. So that's still my main focus, but just the way that cricket is going at the moment, I've just kind of gone about it a different way with these franchise cricket leagues. But no, I still want to play for New Zealand as much as I can, and also I'll be playing for definitely Northern Districts when I'm available.
Well, that's good to hear. When it comes to playing for New Zealand, the word mercenary has been thrown around a lot when it comes to players like you, Tim, and Lockie Ferguson playing on the T20 circuit for the reasons you've outlined. Do you know, though, where that leaves you in the selection fold for the Black Caps?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, to be honest. I think it's probably still a bit of a moving part. I know, the Sri Lankan series that just went in Sri Lanka, they didn't pick many guys that weren't contracted, but at the same time, they are, looking to picking guys that aren't contracted, I think, for main World Cups events and big ICC events. So yeah, hopefully, it is a moving part, and hopefully, there's a Pakistan series in New Zealand, I think in March, that I'll be available for. So hopefully, I'll be back in the black then.
Good stuff. There's been a bit of talk about a New Zealand side potentially entering the Big Bash. Are you in favour of a concept like that?
Yeah, I would be. Now that I've been over there and experienced it all, I think it would be amazing to have, start off with one New Zealand team. Ideally, two would be great. It was quite funny. I came home over Christmas, and it's actually closer to fly to New Zealand than it is to Perth. So from Melbourne, so the travel shouldn't be an issue from that point of view. But I think it would be great. Like the football, like the league, and the rugby union. So I think it's definitely something that we can make possible in the near future.
And no doubt that there is enough talent in the New Zealand talent pool to compete in the Big Bash?
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing that they have as well is that they do have 3 overseas players per side. So, you potentially bring that in with the New Zealand team as well to even make that team stronger. So we definitely have the pool to compete, and then you add a couple overseas in there as well. I think it would be a great competition.
And as far as the guys you've played with and against over the years, I get the feeling you would have established some fairly firm friendships. Do you still keep in touch with other Black Caps players, even though you're sort of spread far and wide?
Yeah, no, definitely. Still got my best mates in the side and keep in touch with them. My side at the moment, we've got Southey, Adam Milne, and there's a lot of Kiwi guys over here playing. And then, still got... my good friends in the national setup. So, always keep in touch, and it was great to see them do well in there, and it's an exciting time ahead with the Champions Trophy coming up too.
Indeed. I wonder what it's like for you, though, when you're overseas, you're watching from afar, watching the Black Caps, and if they are struggling, watching and knowing that, if you got the call, you'd have plenty to offer. What is that like?
Oh, you want to see them do as well as possible, but sometimes that's sport. You can't always play your best game and all that. But I always enjoy watching them play, and hopefully more times than not, it's a good day. Yeah,
indeed. And let's hope we see you back in that Black Cap soon as well, Tim. Thanks so much for your time. Congrats on a really good Big Bash campaign. On to the next, the ILT 20. Appreciate you joining us across New Zealand today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
No, thanks for joining us, Tim. Tim Seifert there with us on Weekend Sport. Your chance to react to a couple of really interesting comments, actually, that came up in that conversation. 0800 80 10 80. Can open the lines on this. A Kiwi team in the Aussie Big Bash. Yay or nay? Tim Seifert says he's in favour of it. He said, yep, now I've played in it, I can see the value of a New Zealand team in the Big Bash. Are you in favour of that? The big question around it is what it would do to our domestic competition, our Super Smash. If we took, let's say, 15 players out of our domestic competition and they became the New Zealand side in the Big Bash, what would that look like? Because presumably the local comp would continue. We'd still have the Super Smash, but players couldn't clearly play in both. The Aussie Big Bash, of course, would have to invite us in. It's not, you can't just enter. You can't just say, well, we'd like to play. They've got 8 teams currently, a couple from Melbourne, a couple from Sydney, Hobart, Perth, Brisbane, Adelaide. They might be happy with 8. But is it a conversation that we should proactively look to open? 0800 80 10 80. Or actually, should we be looking to instead supercharge our Super Smash? Try to attract some international players and a bit of star power to our comp. I would love to see a few of the big international superstars of white ball cricket playing in our comp. How good would that be? But it would need investment, of course. So, here's one idea I just sort of came up with really on the fly as I was listening to Tim Seifert. Could, for example, there be a central fund that New Zealand Cricket puts up, and each of the 6 provinces is allowed to use that money, or I guess apply for that money, to recruit an overseas player for their men's and women's sides. So funded centrally by New Zealand Cricket, and that pot is available to all 6. And they would make their case to whoever it was at New Zealand Cricket to say, hey, we'd like to get XYZ player here, and this is how much it's going to cost us. 0800 80 10 80, because I feel as though the Super Smash is still a very important part of our cricket calendar. It's played in that period, well, now obviously, sort of between Christmas and the back end of January, finals weekend, next weekend in Wellington, so that'll be February 1-2. So it's an important window. It's good viewing over the holiday period. I'll watch a lot of it on TV. It's free to air. But it could do with a bit of supercharging, perhaps. And there is so much competition now from the likes of the Big Bash and the other competitions I mentioned, like this South African competition. Devon Conway and Kane Williamson are both there at the moment, aren't they? Not playing for Wellington and Northern, respectively. In fact, in order to play over in South Africa, they had to turn down central contracts because they wouldn't be available for some white ball internationals at the start of January. Still going to be available when they get back, obviously, but all of these other competitions are looking to supercharge themselves, so why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't our Super Smash be given a wee injection of star power? Be keen for your thoughts on that and the concept of a side going into the Big Bash, or even two, as Tim Seifert said, a couple of sides going in there. That would really dilute our local competition. Of course it would. So which of the two things should we be looking at? Putting more focus and energy and investment into our own domestic competition, or looking to get a north and a south side in front of the powers that be at the Big Bash and saying, hey, can we join in? 0800 80 10 80 is our phone number. 9292 for text messages. 12:28 as we talk cricket for the next wee while. On Weekend Sport, we're back with your calls after this.
Crouch, hold, engage. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes. New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
News Talk ZB and Weekend Sport 29-1 as we talk cricket for a wee while. Lots of feedback coming through on text. If you want to make your point, though, we'd love to chat to you. Spare line there, 0800 80 10 80. Which way should we be looking? Should we be looking inward at our T20 competitions and looking to supercharge the Super Smash and give it a bit of a boost? Or should we be looking to tag ourselves on to the Big Bash across the Tasman, where they've been going for quite some time now? Everybody who goes there, and just listening to Tim Seifert, who for the first time has played in this competition, talking about the excitement levels. What did he say? Their smallest crowd was 20,000. I know there's a lot more people over there, but even so, there seems to be a bit of sparkle about it. Should we be looking at opening a conversation with the powers that be at the Big Bash and saying, hey, what about us? Steve says, Piney, has anyone actually thought of asking the Australians if they want us in their competition? If not, it's a pointless conversation. Look, I don't know whether there's ever been a conversation about it. And it would be, I sort of also wonder who would have the conversation. Would it be New Zealand cricket? I suppose it would. But they're probably fairly reticent, I would say, to start talking about, taking, let's say, 15 to 20 of our best players out of the Super Smash and putting them into an Australian competition when they're still trying to run their own Super Smash back here. But yeah, of course, it's not just something you can't just enter. It's not one of those where you can just say, "Yep, we'd love to play, put us in." Obviously, they would have to want us. Like, I mean, every sporting organisation has to innovate. Has to want to improve, and you can't just sit still. Brian says, Jason, why would Australia want us in their Big Bash comp? It always makes me cringe, says Brian, when we start talking about wanting to join their various competitions. We're like, this is a good phrase, we're like some bottomless pit of neediness. Let's wash our own face and sort ourselves out and stop pestering the Aussies. Brian, it's not a bad point that you make. But I guess if you're looking for evolution and looking for a different way of doing things, like T20 is here to stay. There's absolutely no question about that. It's here, and the calendar is becoming more and more crowded. So if our own Super Smash is to retain relevance, then we have to do something. Yes, it's a good domestic comp. It is. And maybe it is what it is, and it doesn't need to be any more than it is our Super Smash. A place where, our top domestic cricketers can play white ball cricket, can get some experience under their belts, and if they are good enough, can earn selection into the national sides, but also put themselves in the shop window for other T20 leagues. Maybe the Super Smash doesn't want or need to be the Big Bash, or the SA20 competition, or the ILT20. Maybe there just isn't enough resource investment over here for it to happen. So maybe we should just be happy with it. I would like to think that we can perhaps be a little bit more innovative than that. That we can try and find a way of taking it to the next level, of attracting a few more eyeballs, of adding a bit more star power. Wellington brought Ellis Perry over for a couple of games, for example, in the Blaze side. They've sort of gone out shopping. There have been instances, haven't there, of teams, bringing in a player from time to time, but it's not something that is a regular occurrence in our T20 competition. Would you like to see it become that way? Let's have two teams in the Big Bash, says Will. North and South, and pick those teams from the Super Smash. Shorten that comp. I guess the difficulty is the calendar, isn't it? Because the Big Bash starts before Christmas in that middle of December period. Runs right through until now. The final is tomorrow night, Australia Day over there, of course. So it would be hard to fit in our Big Bash before it, because you'd be starting sort of way back October, November, when really it's the holiday period that is the sweet spot for cricket viewing. But yeah, why not two teams? If we are going to look to join, why not the two teams? Josh says the Super Smash and Plunket Shield are on life support as it is. If anything, New Zealand cricket needs to pour a heap of effort and money into them to keep them alive. I think the Super Smash is okay. I think our domestic cricket landscape is actually okay. It's not. I don't think it's on life support. I think there are good numbers. I think tuning in, particularly on free to air. When I look at these crowds, sometimes it's a bit sparse on some of these banks around the place, but over the holiday period, there's good crowds turning up to some of these venues to watch. Outside of the main centres as well, the likes of Nelson and Alexandra and New Plymouth and such like. So I wouldn't agree that it's on life support necessarily, Josh. But I would like, perhaps if we are going to continue along this road, to do something to make it just a little bit better. 23 away from 1. Your thoughts on this are welcome. 0800 80 10 80. Speaking of the Super Smash, games today in Christchurch, Hagley Oval, between Canterbury and Central. Canterbury have been sent into bat by Central in the women's game, which is underway in about 3 or 4 minutes. We'll keep eyes on that for you. 0800 80 10 80, 9292 on text. 23 to 1, back after this.
You be the TMO. Have your say on 0800 80 1080 Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner Homes, New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
News Talk ZB 20 to 1 on text. How did joining an Aussie competition work out for our netballers or for supercars who were told it had to be a city track or nothing? I think joining the competitions worked out well for the likes of the Warriors, the Phoenix and Auckland FC, the Breakers. I think that's all worked out. What it's done to our local competitions, I guess, is another conversation to be had. Not that they necessarily are played at the same time. You look at the A-League, for example. That is played between October and May, so it doesn't cut across when the national leagues are being played, although they do have their conclusion at the back end of the calendar year, so I guess they do cut across. Similarly, when the NRL is on, there's the local domestic rugby league competition for the Breakers in the Australian National Basketball League. That doesn't cut across our National Basketball League. You often see players playing in both. The difference with cricket, if we were to have a couple of teams go and join the Big Bash, it would immediately dilute our competition. And that competition, if we're talking about dilution, is already missing some big stars. Tim Seifert, Lockie Ferguson, both playing in the Big Bash, and then on to the ILT20. Kane Williamson and Devon Conway electing to play in South Africa instead of for their provinces this summer. So any further dilution would just, by pure logic, bring the standard down of the Super Smash here in New Zealand. It would also, of course, if you want to counterpoint that, give opportunities to younger players. Speaking of the A-League, Wellington Phoenix went to Christchurch yesterday and took on the Central Coast Mariners. They were back for the first time in 9 years. Hadn't played in the Garden City since January of 2016. A 0-0 draw between the Phoenix and the Central Coast Mariners. Probably the big talking point of the game were a couple of fairly decent penalty shouts for the Phoenix, which weren't given either by the on-field referee, Tim Danaskis, or on review by VAR. Certainly, I think there was possibly a case to answer for one, certainly one, and maybe both of them. Here's Giancarlo Italiano, chief coach of the Phoenix afterwards. He was asked about that. Did he think either of them was a penalty?
No, I don't. First one, momentum, I think they both go down at the same time, and then he can stand on his feet and finish, but he chooses to make another play at the ball. And I think by that time there's no advantage. He has the advantage to shoot and he doesn't. So I think to give a penalty might have been harsh. The second one, I can't make an assessment because of the angle. I think if there was a angle that showed the ball from behind the goal, I could make a better assessment. But I couldn't see whether or not if there was enough contact and enough momentum.
So, obviously the crowd felt,
of course, no, that's good. They're patriotic.
Yeah. So, all in all, do you think it was a fair result?
I think so. I don't think we merited to win on the basis of the quality of our chances. The intent was to go forward, and we had enough opportunity to capitalise. But we just final delivery, play being in the right spot, miscontrol, maybe passes not sticking the way they should. Maybe rushing sometimes when we had plenty of space to capitalise. But again, I can't fault the intent of the players. I think they'll focus today. It's just more about that care factor in that final third that really hurt us.
Is that care factor something you think will come quickly?
It takes time. I think last week. Last week against MacArthur in the first half, we had plenty of opportunity to capitalise, just weren't making the right runs. And then in the second half, when Finn Conchi came on, changed the game, he was finding those passes. Today, I felt as though we had plenty of opportunity if we were in the right position in the first half. We weren't. Second half was a little bit better. But again, I think we're lacking maybe one playmaker in there, a bit of speed that could have capitalised on those moments. And to expect the younger boys to, fully mature and be that player, I'm not quite sure they're up to it at the moment. I think you're going to have one good performance, maybe a scattered performance, up and down. So my expectation isn't too high with those players. It will come. It's just a matter of, riding out the ups and downs like this.
At the other end, just one goal conceded in 3 games, 2 clean sheets in your last 3.
Mm-hmm.
Defensive stability seems to have improved. Are you happy with that?
Of course I am. I think, that's what we built our whole season on last year. We've changed the structure a little bit for this season with the types of players that we have available now. We work very hard on it. I think the messaging now is a lot more simpler so the players can understand and also, be positive with the player attributes that we have. And the defending's also brought us some good chances in the final third, attacking half. So, again, the confidence is coming. It's building. It's, just more recognition of that last pass, that final moment that we need to be a little bit smarter with.
So you don't play again now until Waitangi Day?
Yes.
So what are you hoping for in terms of, could we see Alex Rufer, Tim Payne? Could we see a new signing by then even?
I'm hoping a new signing by then. If we do decide to get a visa, it's more about whether he'll get the visa, be ready for the game. If we go down a local option, then again that would be immediate, I guess. So, but there's still plenty of water under that bridge. So I'm hoping that Payne's back. Chez really, like today, wasn't really supposed to play, but he played full 90, and he'll be better for it. And I'm just thinking there's one or two. Sorry, Payne will be back. Did I mention
Rufer?
that? Rufer, yeah, sorry. Rufer, again, he's progressing nicely. It's just I think a little bit optimistic for Brisbane. I think we have victory the week after, so probably maybe victory, if not the week after. So, I'm just thinking, there's anyone else? Marco's out for the season. That's all we have at the moment.
Oh, Lucas Kelly-Hill.
Yeah, so he picked up a strain of training, not yesterday, day before. Just for precaution, we had to rest him because there was a risk that it could re-aggravate. It was a big loss today, just in terms of balance in the starting team that we've had. So he should be back for Brisbane.
That is Giancarlo Italiano, coach of the Phoenix, after their 0-0 draw in Christchurch yesterday, just on the penalties. I thought that was very diplomatic from Giancarlo Italiano, saying no, he didn't think they were. I don't know if you've seen the footage. I think there was a definite case for the second of the two to be whistled up. What happens in these situations is the on-field referee makes a call, and then the VAR, video assistant referee, has a look at it and alerts the referee if he thinks there is further scrutiny required. And on both occasions, the video assistant referee told the on-field referee that actually no. But it took a long time for both, actually. But on neither occasion did Tim Danaskis, the referee, get summoned over to the pitch side screen to have another look at it. The thing that I guess I think in these situations is if one or both were given as penalties, would the VAR have a look and overturn that on-field decision? And I think the answer to that in both cases is no. Because the VAR is there to I know it's got quite complicated recently, but it's there to avoid the howler where an on-field decision has been made or not made, and it's a howler. And so you can right that wrong. But I think if either of those penalties is given, then the VAR doesn't overturn. Anyway, we move on from that. I thought the crowd in Christchurch yesterday was terrific. Well done to the fine footballing folk of the Canterbury region who turned up in good numbers, over 14,000 there. I know they don't get a lot of A-League football down there, in fact none for 9 years, but still, you still have to turn up, and I thought they did in really good numbers. And the game was at Apollo Project Stadium. You know, it's where the Crusaders play. It's the temporary stadium, and we spoke to Caroline Harvey-Tier, CEO of Venues Aotautahi, on the show yesterday about the imminent arrival of Te Kaha, the new stadium, in April of next year. And while that's being built, they continue to use the stadium at Addington. I actually thought yesterday it was a really good venue for football. It's rectangular for starters, which it has as an advantage over Sky Stadium in Wellington. It's nice and intimate. It's got a bit of a temporary feel about it, but it's always been that way. You know, a bit of scaffolding and you know, you're climbing up stairs which are attached to scaffolding and all that sort of thing. But for a venue, I really liked it. You know, obviously it's going to be decommissioned in about 18 months or so when Te Kaha is built. But for the Phoenix's purposes yesterday, I thought it was a really good venue and a good crowd turning out. The only thing I couldn't work out yesterday, apart from the penalty shouts, but the only thing that really had me scratching my head was why Wellington Phoenix decided to wear their change strip. Wellington Phoenix, as you probably know, are a team that wears yellow. Yesterday they came out in their change strip, which is a charcoal colour. It's a dark colour. And the Central Coast Mariners, who also wear yellow, were able to wear their yellow strip at the home, albeit the home away from home, of the Wellington Phoenix. All of the crowd who turned up there yesterday were in Phoenix gear, which is yellow. But the team they're supporting out there is wearing a dark strip. And the Mariners are wearing yellow. Maybe it's not such a big deal, but it just seems so odd to me. And people tuning in, maybe for the first time, I know I heard anecdotally messages saying, you know, I thought we were the ones in yellow. But no, we were the ones in charcoal. The reason for it, as I understand it, is a commercial thing. The front of shirt sponsor for the home strip, the yellow one, is different than the front of shirt sponsor for the away strip. And each of those two sponsors is duty-bound by contract to have so many games per year. That's why sometimes the Phoenix wear their away strip at home. I get that, but I wouldn't have chosen yesterday I would have chosen a game against a team that doesn't wear yellow, for starters. I would have worn it against an Adelaide who wear red, or Perth who wear purple. It might sound like a simple thing, but it was such a little strange little sideline yesterday where 14,000 fans turned up in yellow to cheer for the Phoenix, and they weren't wearing yellow. 8 away from 1. News Talk ZB.
Breaking down the Hail Marys and the epic fails. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, News Talk ZB.
5 to 1, couple of messages on the change strip in the football, assuming it is to do with the number of exposures a certain partner gets, says this one. Then print a yellow set and a black set for each partner. Then allocate the partners an equal number of games. Yeah, that sounds sensible. Through here, I bought tickets for my parents who live in Christchurch, and this is the message they sent me after the first few minutes. Dad and I want to know which one is us, yellow or grey. Case in point of how confusing this was for first-time or casual fans. Thanks for your text. And that was a definite penalty missed, says this one. The problem with VAR is they are so inconsistent. That would have been a penalty in another game, and I've seen far less given as penalties. Thank you for your calls and your correspondence. We'll get back into football after 2. Auckland FC have their next assignment tonight. They're playing the Western Sydney Wanderers at Combank Stadium in Parramatta. Logan Rogerson was the scorer of a last-minute equaliser midweek against Adelaide. He's on the show with us. And the Wellington Phoenix women play at the same time against the Central Coast Mariners, so we'll get inside their camp as well. After 1 o'clock, though, going to focus our attention on the tennis. We have our women's singles champion at the Australian Open, and it's Madison Keys for the first time is a major champion, beating double defending champion Arina Sabalenka. Tonight, it's 1v2, Sinner v Zverev in the men's final. So we'll preview that for you as well.
The only place to discuss the biggest sports issues on and off the field. It's all on Weekend Sport with Jason Pine on your home of sport. News Talk ZB.
1:07. Welcome into the show. This is Weekend Sport on News Talk ZB. In an hour or so, going to chat to Luca Harrington. He is a name that perhaps not many of us would have been familiar with 48 hours ago, but yesterday he became an X Games gold medalist in the men's slopestyle. Zoe Sadowski-Sinnott did the same in the women's slopestyle. We chatted to her yesterday. Luca Harrington with us after 2 o'clock this afternoon. The other interesting part of this is that he's back in action in a few hours' time in the big air. The big air is the one when they do just the one jump. The slopestyle is when you do a number of tricks on the way down. So that's what they both won yesterday. Zoe Sadowski-Sinnott and Luca Harrington. Yeah, so Luca with us in around an hour or so. James McConey this hour. We're going to talk some tennis very shortly with Craig Gabriel. Reviewing the women's singles final last night, previewing the men's singles final tonight from the Australian Tennis Open. Your thoughts on the tennis as well. And was it okay to boo Novak Djokovic? Was that actually okay? We didn't really get the chance to chat about this yesterday, so be keen if you've got some thoughts on that. Just before we get to the tennis, updating live sport from Hagley Oval in Christchurch, where the Central Hinds won the toss and sent Canterbury into bat in the Women's Super Smash. Through 7 overs, the Canterbury Magicians, as they're known, 40 for 1. 40 for 1 in the 7th, or just after 7 overs. So going along nicely to start there. We'll keep you updated on the Women's Super Smash, the men to follow. But to the tennis, Madison Keys is a Grand Slam tennis champion at the 46th attempt.
Madison Keys, you are a Grand Slam champion! What incredible tennis and what a match!
What a match indeed. The 29-year-old American Madison Keys has upset top seed and double defending champion Arina Sabalenka 6-3, 2-6, 7-5 in the final. Craig Gabriel joins us from Melbourne. What a few days it's been for Madison Keys. Craig, she beat Iga Swiatek in the semi-final, the world number 2. Now Arina Sabalenka in the final, the world number 1. How has she done it?
Tunnel vision. This was her time. The number of players, past and present, that have saluted her on social media is pretty phenomenal. And in 2017, she reached the final of the US Open and lost to Sloane Stephens, who's one of her really good friends. And Sloane has tweeted, "It's never been a case of if, but it always has been a case of when." And absolutely excited for her. And it's one of the most popular victories in the women's locker room. There's no two ways about it. The smile on her face, the tears of joy were just absolutely brilliant. And what she achieved by beating a world number 2 in the semis and then the world number 1 in the final is an amazing achievement. It's not something that's done too often. I think Serena Williams was the last one to do something like that. So that in itself is incredibly special. So all around, this has been an amazing, not just this tournament, but these few weeks in Australia, because she came into the Australian Open having won Adelaide. So obviously she loves playing in Australia because she's won Adelaide before. So, maybe we should just adopt her.
Perhaps so. But do you think in her heart of hearts, in her deepest, darkest moment, she might have thought, having been 45 majors without a win, that it just wasn't going to happen for her?
Well, look, with all the players, there are doubts and all that, but at the same time, they have to have belief. If you don't have belief, you might as well not walk on the court. And there was that. But she said that she had started working in therapy to give her some of that understanding as to why things were not happening. She said initially she did it for the sports aspect, but she's now done it for the personal aspect. And she said she was admitting things that she hated to admit and she never wanted to and didn't like doing. But she said it's helped her on the mental side of her approach to life, but also to her professional career. So it's all fallen into place. She's going to be ranked at a career equal best of 7 in the world. So it's all fantastic. And she puts away $3.5 million.
29 years old now, Madison Keys. Could she, having won one now, Craig, win a few more?
Why not? I mean, you get the monkey if you're back the first time and doors start to open. There is this level of confidence. I don't expect her to go winning week after week after week, title after title. That's not going to happen. That's for some of the freaks of the game. But, I dare say she could suffer a bit of a letdown after this because you're on such an adrenaline high that once these sort of things are done, there's sort of like an empty feeling. I wouldn't be surprised if she loses her next few tournaments, but then she'll get back on track and pick things up again. But absolutely, the door is open for her to win more.
For every elated winner, there's a disappointed loser. Tell us about the demeanour of Aryna Sabalenka.
Well, there was a lot of frustration that came out of her because she really wanted it, and obviously so, to put her name into the history books or rewrite some of it by winning a 3rd title in a row, which hasn't been done for 25 plus years. Martina Hingis was the last one to do it from 97 to 99. So, there was that frustration that came out at the end after they shook hands, and the racket she used in the match will not be used in a tennis match again. So it was a mess. But, and then she left the court and she said, I needed to get off the court. I needed some time to myself and to compose, to be a bit more composed when she went back for the presentation ceremony. And she gave a very gracious speech at the end.
So men's singles final tonight then. The top 2 seeds, defending champion Jannik Sinner against Alexander Zverev, who's still looking for his first major win. Could Zverev perhaps take some inspiration from Madison Keys?
Absolutely. I wouldn't say so much from Madison Keys, but I think he's got the determination to do it. He can absolutely do it. He desperately wants it. He's made that clear. He's been in 2 finals previously. The US Open was the first one. He lost to Dominic Thiem and after having championship points. And then he lost to Carlos Alcaraz in the French Open final. So he feels it's his time now. And he wants this very badly. He says it's something he's dreamed of since growing up. But then he's got the world number 1 on the other side of the court as well, who is just so amazing at the moment as an individual, as a tennis player. So I hope and I would expect we're going to see an amazing tennis match. I wouldn't say the women's match was that great, except for the last few games when it got really quite thrilling. But I think, we could see one that's going the distance tonight. Absolutely. I don't know. I mean, my initial thought all along with the tournament has been Sinner to repeat. But I just feel there is also that situation, as I was saying, about Zverev feeling it's his time. So, whoever wins is going to be a worthy champion.
Just on Sinner, he's been imperious. Straight sets wins in his quarter, his semi, I think 20 matches, I heard you say, or 20 straight match wins, number 1 since June. What has impressed you most, Craig, about Jannik Sinner, not just at this tournament, but since he's been world number 1?
His humility. He's such an easy, down-to-earth person. He's softly spoken. He's been asked, how has being number 1 changed you? He says, it hasn't. It's not changed me at all. He was asked, are you unbeatable? And he explained that he's not unbeatable. He just works very hard, and he has a mental strength in matches to win these matches. He said, but he could be beaten at any time. Some other player may have an absolute blinder. The last time he was beaten was in the final of Beijing in October last year to Carlos Alcaraz, and that was another tight match. So nobody's unbeatable, but certainly he's a tremendous individual.
And it wasn't to be 25 in 25 for Novak Djokovic, forced to retire in a semi against Zverev. Do you think 24 might be his final number?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's still another 3 majors in 25 to go. The French, Wimbledon, and the US Open. So he's still got some opportunities this year. I think it's going to get tougher. He turns 38 in May. And, some of these injuries are creeping in. But I feel very sure that he's going to give it everything he's got and more. To try and get himself across that line and gain that record just for himself, because he shares that record right now with Margaret Court on 24 career majors. So that's what he's striving for. Last year he was striving for the Olympic gold medal, and he got it. He beat Carlos Alcaraz in the final. So we'll see. But these injuries are obviously a matter of concern. He was affected and rightly so with the booing when he retired from the Zverev match in the semis. And he's posted on social media a picture of the scan that shows there is a tear. And that's why he retired. So, he would not have retired if he was able to play through at all, but the pain levels were getting too intense.
Craig, have really enjoyed your coverage over the last 2 weeks in Melbourne. Let's hope for a classic finale tonight in the men's singles final. Thanks, as always, for joining us across New Zealand.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Craig. Craig Gabriel there, our man in Melbourne, covering the Australian Tennis Open. So we have our women's champion, Madison Keys, beating Arina Sabalenka last night. Men's champion will be decided tonight on text. Can you please tell me what time the men's final starts? Absolutely, I can. 9:30 tonight. 9:30 is the scheduled start time on Rod Laver Arena. The women's doubles final is on from 5 o'clock this afternoon. Unfortunately, our own Erin Routliffe will not be there, beaten in the semi-finals. She and partner Gabby Dabrowski beaten in the semis. So it would have been nice to see Erin Routliffe out on Rod Laver Arena later on this afternoon. Not to be, so she won't be there. The men's final, Jannik Sinner, Alexander Zverev, 1v2, 9:30 tonight at Rod Laver Arena. Tennis fans have been watching. Can Sinner be beaten? He looks imperious. He looks unbeatable. He looks absolutely the favourite. I haven't checked the odds, but I'll do that in a moment. Can Jannik Sinner be beaten by Alexander Zverev? And what did you make of the whole Novak Djokovic thing? Look, I think we can all accept that he is a polarising figure, particularly in Melbourne, given all of the, anti-vax stuff. I don't want to talk about that. But when he retired from his semi-final against Alexander Zverev, what night was that? Friday night? He was booed by some segments of the crowd. And speaking to our Australian correspondent yesterday, Adam Peacock, he said, it was a very small number who were doing that. But even a small number is still a number. It just brings into, I guess, wider focus the whole, and not just at the tennis, but is it actually okay to boo sports people? It happens a lot, and the argument I always hear is, well, I've paid my money, so I'm allowed to do what I want. I never see people really booing at the theatre, and you pay money for tickets for that. So I don't quite understand the argument. I've never understood the motivation for it. It always comes up as a topic of conversation around rugby as well, doesn't it? Do we boo the kicker? Do we boo opposition kickers? There's always a small minority of people who boo an opposition kicker when they're lining up to take a shot at goal. Again, it's not for me. But do you feel as though that's actually okay? The Novak Djokovic one was slightly different in that it was at the end of the game. He'd played the game. He'd retired injured. And as Craig Gabriel said there, he's since posted some pictures on his social media of an X-ray showing that actually, yes, I am injured. I wasn't just making it up. So, but I don't know. I just thought it was a very, very odd way of expressing oneself. You might have an opinion on that, whether it's okay to boo people. And Zverev, Sinner. Is Zverev a chance tonight against Sinner? I didn't watch the game last night, the match last night, rather, the women's singles final. I was following it online, and I saw Madison Keys was out to a 5-1 lead in the first set, and she eventually won the first set, and I thought, this is very impressive. But was it just the adrenaline of getting out there and having a really good start? And would Sabalenka come right? And Arina Sabalenka won the second set. So at that point, I nodded off. I had a long day. I nodded off and I didn't see the end of it. And I woke up this morning, I thought I'll check how much, what happened in the third set, and fully expecting to see Arina Sabalenka's name in the winner's circle. But no, Madison Keys. She must have, after all of that time, thought, what, it might just not going to be happening for me. But after beating Swiatek in the semis, on to the final, beating Sabalenka, the top two players in the world she's beaten now. So, yeah, take it. Take it. You're a major champion finally, Madison Keys. Can Alexander Zverev emulate her tonight? He's never won one either. Could this be his time to break his duck? 123 0800 80 10 80 is our number. Talking tennis, a bit of booing in sport if you like. We're back after this with your calls on Weekend Sport here at News Talk ZB.
It's more than just a game. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes. New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
News Talk ZB and Weekend Sport 126. Piney, I never boo anything myself, says this text, but I can sort of see the reasoning behind booing a kicker at goal, where you boo no matter the kicker, it's just to put them off. But booing an individual as they walk on or off a court or field or touch the ball is so bad. I've always stopped my kids booing at any time. Basketball is maybe one exception where the announcer tries to get the crowd to put off the free throw with yelling and booing. That's always been a bit weird to me. Thank you for your text. Yeah, you're right. I mean, basketball is probably one where, they just do everything they can behind the bucket to put off the free throw. I've always thought, actually, it'd be more disconcerting if there was utter silence. Because I get the feeling that an elite sports person just blocks it out. Hello, Jamie.
G'day, Jason. Happy New Year.
Oh, Jamie, come on! It's the 26th of January. I think we can dispense. I wish you well for the year ahead. How's that?
Thank you very much.
What's on your mind?
It's 3 weeks overdue.
Indeed. What's on your mind, mate?
Yeah, just about the booing thing. It's never. Probably a bit like you, Piney. It's never really been my thing. Although maybe if it's like at a game of rugby where someone's taking a shot at goal, I might go the odd boo. But I mean, just with the things like with Quade Cooper, that probably went on a bit long, I thought.
That went on for years. That went on for years. It was after he kneed Richie in the head. Yeah, I think if you knee Richie McCaw in the head, you resign yourself to a lifetime of boos from New Zealand fans.
It's same thing with back in the day with Sir Richard Happy and the Aussie fans. They used to always give him a bit of stick.
Yep.
Probably out of respect though, but I mean, it's I guess it's each to their own. But I think it can be a bit excessive, personally myself. But that's just my 2 cents.
I thought the Djokovic one was interesting, Jamie, in that it wasn't while he was playing. It wasn't like he had been acting up on the court or doing things to rile up the crowd. It was actually he retired injured. I think the motivation was, hey, I've paid a lot of money for my tickets here. I'm not going to get to see the tennis that I wanted. But it wasn't like he was faking the injury. I thought it was really poor form, actually.
It does go over the fence. I mean, you can probably understand the frustration and disappointment. I mean, but then you can't expect someone who's genuinely injured to keep carrying on. It's it's just, I guess, as a spectator, as part of the risk that you pay, you don't always get to see what you paid for.
No, that's so right. Yeah. Well, it's the same as cricket, Jamie. You might buy a ticket for a cricket game, in a one-day game or a T20, and the team that bats first is all out for 60. And then the other team gets them, and in double quick time, and all of a sudden your day's over. But you're right. You buy your ticket. Fully knowing that it might not work out the way you absolutely hope it will.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, thank you, Piney.
Good on you, Jamie. Let's chat again soon this year, and we can dispense now with the Happy New Year's. We've done it. We can move on. Good to talk to you, man. Kelvin, hi.
Good afternoon, Jason. While I was hanging on, I was just thinking the people who paid their money for a one-day cricket game and got 2 days out of it did very well, didn't they?
There is that also, yes. Because they get the second day of if it. Are you talking about if it rains?
Well, I don't know. No, there's something that was to do with the runs and the overs and all that. It happened it could be even 20 years ago now. But I found it very hard to understand, so I can't recall it properly now. But it did happen. It finished early the first day or something or other, whatever it was, and it went on to the second day, the one day for 2 days. Anyway, what I rung up now. Piney, first of all, you've got to catch up with the play with you being a great sports person. I want to say to you, Happy New Year for this coming Wednesday, New Year's Day, Chinese New Year.
Yes, I knew you were going to say that.
And we've got 2 more later on the year, the Muslim New Year and the Jewish New Year. But anyway, moving on with the booing, the so-called booing. I wanted to let you know very, very briefly, I'm just holding here in my hand the $1 coin that's in a plastic container, Commonwealth Games from Christchurch, 1974. Anyway, there was the booing with the tennis, all that. That's absolutely ridiculous going on like that. But you may or may not be fully aware, Jason, that my 2 real sports are athletics and netball. And most definitely in netball, there's no booing going on. When your shooter shoots and gets a goal, you give them lots and lots of claps. When the opposition shoots and gets a goal, you give them a couple of claps because you're clapping for their good ability. And that's what it's all about.
That's very diplomatic, Kelvin. That's very diplomatic. I'll tell you right now, I will never cheer for an opposition player. Yes, I might applaud at the end if they've done well, but during a game, no. I've got one team and one team only.
What about netball when you're there?
Oh, no. Well, if I go to watch the netball, I cheer for the Pulse. I don't cheer for the other team. I don't boo them. I don't boo them. I don't boo them, but I don't cheer for them.
Hang on. You're not cheering for the team. You're cheering for the shooter, for their ability to shoot a wonderful goal.
Against my team.
It's nothing against your team. You're clapping. If you can't see that, there's something wrong with you, Jason. The reality.
Kelvin, how many people do you know? How many people do you know who go along to watch a team, their team, and clap everything the opposition does as well?
Well, I can't give you a number.
Well, I reckon it's a low number.
Well, if it's a low number, they're low people.
Well, Kelvin, I think we're sports supporters. Look, I know what you're saying. And look, I understand that, you're very diplomatic in that you're applauding good play out there. And if you've got no skin in the game, absolutely fine. If you're watching the game as a neutral, it's not your team out there, then absolutely just, appreciate it for the athletic ability that's going on. But if I'm at a game of any sport and my team is playing, the All Blacks, the Pulse, the Hurricanes, the Firebirds, all of those teams, and somebody from the other team scores a try or hits a six or takes a wicket or scores a goal, any of those things, I'm not cheering for them. I'm not booing them. But I'm not cheering for the team who's playing against my team. That is not sports fandom for me. I may be in the minority. I don't think I am, but that's my approach to sport. Hello, Alison.
Hello, yes, I think that booing of Djokovic was ridiculous because when Osaka played the tennis here, she pulled out of the tennis when she's playing in Auckland and we didn't boo her. That's just an Australian thing, I reckon, just because they don't like him over there for some reason. Because he said he was poisoned or something once. They never got over that, did they? So, I mean, I think he will come back and get another title anyway. I think he's already got he's 24 now, he's already got the number on the 25 for the shoes, hasn't he? So he has to win another one anyway. I don't know after that, but I think he definitely will win another title.
Alison, I almost hope he does. It would be almost. I'd like to see him go to 25 just to achieve it. He's been clearly, one of the greats, if not the greatest tennis player of all time. To be marooned on 24, but I just wonder which one he might win this year. It feels as though the US Open. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the other players too, whether the other players put some, Alcaraz, if somebody puts him out earlier on. This Ben Shelton's very good, isn't he, actually? I think he's going to be very good. But if somebody puts out Alcaraz early on, he doesn't have to play him then. That gives him a better chance of getting another title. That's another thing that comes into it too, doesn't it?
Indeed. And
this Madison Keys, what a wonderful win that was. Absolutely. And her husband coaches. I didn't realise that. They even gave him a trophy for being her coach.
I didn't know that.
Yes, I didn't know. Well, I know, because in fact I watched it the last bit last night, and they said we're now going to have a new... They do it very well in Australia. They do all the very well set up, isn't it? They had Yvonne Goolagong there giving the presentation, oh gosh. And then they said we're going to have a new category this year for the best coach. And then I didn't know it was a husband at that stage. And they said, of course, this is her husband coming up there. He looked a little bit shy at that stage.
Yes.
And he was, and she was saying, she was getting all teary then at that stage. And then she couldn't see him. Then she was so upset. Then she said, "Where is my husband now?" And she's looking around, and the other girl said, "There he is, something or other." It was very well done by the whole thing. I just want to say about this, I was just reading about this Elise Andrews, the cycling. What a wonderful thing. She does the sprints and she does the care, and now she's might be doing the 1,000 one as well. She might be going to do 4, as well as that she's studying, and she also sings as well. She's a musician as well. Oh,
yeah.
Gosh.
She's a diamond of a human being, Elise Andrews. Alison, I just love watching her compete. I love her steely determination. Her dad's her coach as well, obviously. John, isn't it? So, yeah, there's the family connection there. Hey, good to chat to you, Alison. Thank you. Just a text here. Your caller talking about netball's on the money, Piney. It's called sportsmanship. Maybe it happens more in women's sport because we have better manners. The suggestion was made that when you're watching a game or any sport, that you should applaud, acknowledge, cheer even for the opposition. I've never done it. So I won't say I've never done it. For example, someone scores a century against New Zealand. When they bring the 100 up, yes, you clap that. Yes, you do. You clap that. You acknowledge it. Yes, well done, mate. You've brought up your 100. We applaud that. We applaud that. But if we're playing Australia and Australia take a wicket, I'm not applauding that. If somebody's playing against my football team and they score a goal, I'm not applauding that. I'm not booing. Don't get me wrong, I'm not booing. But you think of a football stadium. When a goal goes in, scored by the away team, apart from the small pocket of away fans who go absolutely mad, there's no cheering or applauding by the home fans. It's the opposite. So, the fandom, sports fandom is about supporting your team. And by default, that means not supporting the team that your team is playing, I would have thought. Again, at the risk of repeating myself, it doesn't mean that you're booing the other team or sledging them or giving them any lip. It just means that I just would feel completely at odds with my support for my teams if I was applauding something the opposition did. Anyway, let's move. It's 22 away from 2 when we come back. James McConey in his regular Sunday slot.
The tough questions off the turf. Weekend sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes. New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
19 away from 2, time for our regular Sunday slot with James McConey. Hello, mate.
G'day, mate. Yes, I'm talking to you from lovely, rainy Taupua, where I've been down here, not for the Cold Chisel concert, but for Storm Purvis's wedding. She married Dan Hilton-Jones, so North Harbour rugby fans might know his name, but of course Storm Purvis from The Crowd Goes Wild and the Silver Ferns.
Fantastic. Well, I'll wait for the magazine spread to take in all the photos. Were you told you weren't allowed to take any?
Yeah, we were told, and I was going to break ranks.
I can imagine you would have.
And of course, I looked around and I was like, am I going to be the only person who decides to take photos when we've specifically been told not to? But then I realised, look, we need a shot for the show, for Crowd Goes Wild. So I put my phone in landscape mode, TV mode, and took a photo of the a video of the first kiss. So I don't know whether I'm going to be allowed to use that on Crowd Goes Wild, but watch this space. We're back
You're
on
always
here
working.
on Monday.
You're always working, James. Always working. Always just in the back of your mind. How can I get the content? The Australian Tennis Open comes to its conclusion tonight with the men's singles final. I'm not sure whether you had the opportunity to watch the women's final or have caught up on it, but Madison Keys, I was a fan of her finally winning a major.
Yeah, so was I, Piney. I've seen Madison Keys grow up from tennis prodigy. She was on the tour at 14 years of age, and she turns 30 next month. So this is an amazing story, really, because she lived in the shadow of the Williams sisters, and every time a new tennis star emerged, she seemed to move further back down the taxi ranks. So Sloane Stephens and Coco Vandeweghe and Coco Gauff, and then now Madison Keys just been plugging away. She is, she hits the ball hard. She's pretty tall, 5'10". She can, she's got that build to be a Grand Slam tennis winner, and finally put it all together perfectly. But there's a nice story behind it, Piney, about her rackets. Have you caught up with this?
No, I haven't.
So she was a Wilson racket user for many years, probably a decade, and last year decided to change to Yonex. And then, and also got married, coincidentally, to one of her coaches, and who she'd been dating for 7 years. So married in November. Suddenly, new racket, new husband, and she's winning a Grand Slam. And so she won them with Yonex. And then, meanwhile, over on the other side of the court, Sabalenka is smashing her Wilson, which is the racket that old Madison Keys used to use. So yeah, one empire rises, another one falls.
Not a great night for Wilson. No, not a great night. Hey, we had some Kiwi involvement as well, quite deep into the women's doubles and the mixed doubles. Erin Routliffe and Michael Venus together couldn't get past the semi-finals, unfortunately. But I enjoyed watching a couple of Kiwis go deep in the mixed doubles.
Yeah, it's awesome. They're almost a father-daughter combination. Michael Venus slapped me for saying that, but.
Yep.
He is 37, so he's slightly younger than Gail Monfils. But, he's one of the veterans and an outstanding doubles player. He's won a Grand Slam before. He's won a bronze medal at the Olympics with Marcus Daniel. But what I really like is that they've got this amazing chemistry. They want to play all the majors this year together. So they've committed to that. Actually, while I was interviewing them for Sky Sport, I sort of put them on the spot a little bit. And Erin said, I'm always the one who has to ask Michael. And Michael goes, I'm disorganised. And so suddenly they said, yeah, we'll play. He goes, do you want to play French? She goes, yes. And then now they're going to play Wimbledon and the US Open. And it means that New Zealand has a chance, the New Zealand doubles pairing has a chance to win a first Kiwi Grand Slam for doubles. There have been plenty of Kiwi players have won doubles titles with players from other nations, but never a Kiwi pairing.
Oh, we'll look forward to that. I was just having a quick check on Michael Venus's career. He's made a pretty good career out of being a very good doubles player. $4.7 million in prize money.
I know, it's amazing. And actually, do you know what? Mixed doubles is very watchable. They play, they don't really play best of three sets. If it's one set all, they go straight into a super tiebreaker, which is first to 10, I think.
Yes, it is. Yep.
First to 10. So it's high drama, high entertainment, a lot of pressure on each point, which I think is really what you want out of sport and for tennis. So, let's make mixed doubles great again. Can Trump do it? I don't know.
I don't know whether his involvement would necessarily be integral to mixed doubles becoming great again. Look, I think in this part of the world, if Erin Routliffe and Michael Venus can win a Grand Slam, then I think would be very, very happy with that. Hey, I was going to ask you about rugby. I know it's only the 26th of January, but actually Super Rugby starts in, was it 3 weeks? Man, that's going to come around quick. The Fijian Drua are going to play against Major League Rugby side Rugby Football Club Los Angeles as one of their preseason games.
Well, they played them on Friday, Piney, and it was reasonably close, high-scoring game. The Drua got up, so they won it. And but I looked at LAFC and RFC, and they scored several good tries. They were combative in the forwards, and I just think, is this a glimpse, to the future of rugby? Can we get an American team into Super Rugby? They seem pretty competitive, and this is a team that, they had a couple of really gun players, Lealiafano at first five and Petranu, the Pumas halfback, but then there were players from Randwick Club Rugby, in Sydney filling in. So once a team like that can get bolstered by more talent, then could they actually be a contender to play Super Rugby? And maybe does Super Rugby think about doing 2 divisions? This is where, I know it's hard to see that happening when you see what's happening with crowd numbers, but I think something needs to happen to the game. It needs to expand, and America is fresh pastures. And this time of year, of course, once the Super Bowl is over next week, there's no American football really, and the college football season is pretty much done and dusted. So there's clear air for rugby from February through to June.
Are these the sorts of things that sort of going through your mind as the wedding vows are being read yesterday, or in a lull in proceedings at the wedding? Are these the sorts of things that pop into your head?
Yeah, can we get LA rugby in Super? Yeah, that's what I had to make a speech, Piney. I got dropped as MC, and look,
what?
I'm not against it. Look,
who?
I was asked
for who? For who?
No. For a brother and sister combo, so two siblings.
All right.
And you can't argue with that. I'm not going to sort of throw my toys, but I did say, well, I had actually already prepared something, so maybe. And so Storm said, well, why don't you introduce the MC? So I sort of managed to muscle my way into the wedding, feeling a bit guilty about that now, pulling focus like a proper TV person. So, I'm keeping a low profile today. There'll be no big entrances to the barbecue the day after.
I can imagine. So there's two distinct sets of people in Taupō. There's the wedding crowd for Storm Purvis's wedding, and there's the Cold Chisel crowd. Have they been in evidence around Taupō in the last little while?
Oh, they have. I can see them, and I think the father of the groom would have rather been at Cold Chisel by the sounds of things. Russell Hilton-Jones, I'll throw him under the bus, a former North Harbour flanker, and Northland as well, I think. And so he was definitely talking about Cold Chisel a lot last night, wondering what the playlist was and, when are they going to play Forever Now and all this kind of thing. I was like, okay, Russell, just focus. We've got free booze here. We're having a good time. And, the band is playing Proclaimers 500 Miles. What's not to like?
Of course. A wedding reception for filler like that, you cannot go wrong. James, safe travels back up to Auckland, and I look forward to chatting some sport with you again next Sunday.
Cheers, Piney. All the best, mate.
And to you too, mate. James McConey, huge part of our Sundays. Alternative Commentary Collective, Craig Goes Wild, all across your social media as well. And look out for that prohibited, forbidden video. I think that's what happens if you're really famous. The magazines, the women's magazines get they sign the deal. I've never been in this situation as a guest, or certainly not as the participant in a wedding either. But they say, okay, we'll pay you X amount of dollars, but no one can take photos because we want to be the ones for the photos. I think that's what's happened here. I hope it was a brilliant day in Taupō. I'm sure it was. 9 away from 2, News Talk ZB.
Analysing every view from every angle in the sporting world. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine. Call 0800 80 1080. News Talk ZB.
6 to 2. Just want to circle back to the tennis before the 2 o'clock news. Madison Keys, a major champion at last. At the 46th attempt, she's finally won the Australian Open last night when she beat Aryna Sabalenka. Did she ever have doubts about her career and that she would ever win a major?
I finally got to the point where I was proud of myself and proud of my career with or without a Grand Slam. And I finally got to the point where I was okay if it didn't happen. I didn't need it to feel like I had a good career or that I deserved to be, talked about as a great tennis player. And I feel like finally letting go of that kind of internal talk that I had just gave me the ability to actually go out and play some really good tennis to actually win a Grand Slam.
Okay. Was there a moment during the Australian Open where she realised or believed that she actually could win it?
I just slowly started continuing to build the confidence, and part of it was that I never really got ahead of myself in each round. I never once thought about the next round until I was actually there. So I think, yes, I believed that I could do it, but I also think I did a good job at just focusing on the task at hand.
And Madison Keys finally on the messages she gets from her friends on tour.
I've really grown up on the tour, and I've grown up with some other amazing people on this tour, and some of my closest friends also play. So I think we all are very good at cheering each other on, and their wins feel like our wins. So, to be in the position of actually winning and them getting to be the cheerleaders, it feels really nice, just because after all of these years, watching all of my friends do so well, it has always felt like a win for me. So I'm happy that I can repay the favor.
That is Madison Keys on the occasion of her first win in a tennis major, winner of the Australian Open women's singles last night. Zverev against Sinner tonight for the men's title. 3.5 to 2. After 2 o'clock, Luca Harrington, gold medalist in the men's slopestyle at the X Games in Aspen yesterday. He's got the big air this afternoon, but going to join us after 2. And the Tour Down Under in Adelaide into its final day. Del Woodford going to wrap that up for us.
The only place for the big names, the big issues, the big controversies, and the big conversations. It's all on Weekend Sport with Jason Pine on your home of sport. News Talk ZB.
2:07, final hour of Weekend Sport, then we'll hand over to the Weekend Collective. Thanks for tuning in. Bit of variety for you this hour. We're on the snow with Luca Harrington, who yesterday became an Aspen X Games gold medalist in the men's slopestyle. It's not even his preferred event. That's the big air, which he's in later on today. He's going to have a chat to us very shortly. We'll also talk some cycling. The Tour Down Under is in Adelaide. It's the final stage today. Kiwi Finn Fisher-Black is in third place currently, only 12 seconds behind the leader. So could he make up those 12 seconds on the final day and win the Tour Down Under in Adelaide? Del Woodford on that. Logan Rogerson as well out of the Auckland FC camp as they prepare for their next A-League match against the Western Sydney Wanderers tonight. We'll keep you updated with live sport. In fact, let's do that now. Innings break at Hagley Oval. Canterbury Magicians, Central Hinds in the Women's Super Smash. Now, the Hinds, Central, are out. They can't make the top three, regardless of their remaining matches. Canterbury have to win to keep their hopes alive. They've posted 135 for 6 from their 20 overs. So the Hinds about to head out and chase 136 to win after Canterbury made 135 for 6. So for the Magicians to stay alive, they need to win this match and then go from there. The men's game underway at the completion of the women's match. So, as I say, we will keep you right up to date. Lines of communication remain open. 0800 80 1080 for a phone call, 9292 on text, or an email to jason@newstalkzb.co.nz. But as we tick over 2:08, as we always do at about this time on Weekend Sport, let's bring you up to date, shall we? With some of the things you might have missed. In case you missed it is the name of the feature. We start in the Premier League. A shock. Bournemouth absolutely running riot over Nottingham Forest. Chris Wood's Nottingham Forest.
And Semenyo up against Milinkovic. Semenyo! Well, once again, Bournemouth providing a statement scoreline. 4 against Newcastle, 5 against the informed Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, 5-0 winners, Bournemouth over Nottingham Forest. A blip for Forest. They remain third, though. They are 9 points behind leaders Liverpool, who, in less shocking scenes, kept their lead at the top of the table with a very safe 4-1 win over Ipswich Town.
Haven't got in Liverpool's faces at all. Alexander-Arnold's cross! Cody Gakpo this time! Liverpool have been given the freedom of their own park by Ipswich.
Yeah, and Ipswich have dropped into the relegation zone. They are currently 18th on goal difference, so there's still a wee way to go. But Ipswich will have to do a bit of work to stay a Premier League football side beyond this season. To cricket and to Pakistan, a fascinating test match unfolding between the hosts and the West Indies.
Close it up, he wants a single chance. The Peel West Indies think they've got their man.
Yeah, easy decision for the third umpire. This is a remarkable recovery made by West Indies in this test match. And Pakistan conceding a lead of 9 runs.
So at the end of the first day, 20 wickets have fallen. The West Indies all out 163. Then return the favour by rolling Pakistan for 154. Across in Perth, the Blackfern Sevens continue on their merry way.
It's there for Miller, and Miller just charges to the line to get herself on the score sheet as well. And plenty of time for this one. You can imagine shovel it into touch and see the Blackfern Sevens through to the final 4 here in Perth.
Yeah, they'll face France tonight in the semi-finals over in Perth. And Miyamoto's reign as IBO Super Bantamweight World Boxing Champion has ended at the hands of Ellie Scottney this morning, who proved a bit too strong.
A fight that was delayed from October of last year, causing so much frustration for Scottney. But she's taken the frustrations out on Miyamoto and has produced another superb performance.
Breaking down the Hail Marys and the epic fails. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, News Talk ZB.
11 minutes past 2, a double dose of Kiwi gold at the X Games in Aspen over the weekend, with perhaps more to come. We heard yesterday from Zoe Sadowski-Sinnott, who won her 11th X Games medal, her 6th gold in the women's slopestyle, and fellow New Zealander Luca Harrington pulled off a shock win in the men's slopestyle after originally being named as just an alternate for the event.
What's he going to spin on this final jump? Going gigantic switch, triple cork, 16-20. The smile on his face says it all. Welcome to Winter X Games, Luca Harrington. You are here.
Luca Harrington is here with us. Luca, for those of us who don't follow snow sports closely, this came as a bit of a shock to us yesterday morning. Did it surprise you?
I was pretty surprised. It's been a crazy journey to come here. To be a part of the X Games this week has been absolutely incredible. And I was actually just an alternate coming into the slopestyle event this week. So I wasn't actually sure I was going to be able to be on the start list and to compete until the night before the comp. That was a pretty huge shock in itself. And that was my first big slopestyle win. I'd recently gotten 2 big air wins in the World Cup circuit, but I've always been pushing for the slopestyle one, and to get it here at X Games has been absolutely incredible. And I did not see it coming.
Such a great story. Tell us about being an alternate. What is that like? Do you turn up, wait around for a bit, train, and then, like you say, the night before you find out, I'm actually competing? Is it a bit like that?
Yeah, it could be. Unfortunately, one of the competitors broke his arm in the competition the night before, which meant he unfortunately had to pull out of slopestyle the next day. So luckily I got a little bit of warning in advance. I got the night to prepare, but it could have come down to seconds before the competition started, before I knew. Luckily this time round I had a bit of time.
That's good to hear. Well, you in some ways, Luca, under less pressure as an alternate coming in, because really, I guess, there's no expectation on you.
Yeah, I think so. I think my goals were to really just put down a run I was really happy with, push myself, push the sport, and, see where I ended up. It was a goal of mine to make it through to the second round, which I did, and I was pretty damn stoked after that. In itself, and then it was pretty crazy to end up walking away with the gold.
You'd been training, as you say, even as an alternate. Did you feel confident once you were in the field that you could put down a good run in the slopestyle?
It was tough. It was great to be able to train all week with everyone, but these are the best of the best. And watching them ski all week, I was like, wow, this is going to be tough. So it was, but I definitely, I felt confident in my skiing, and I was really happy with how I trained and my performance leading into the competition. So I definitely had a fair bit of confidence in myself coming into the comp, and I was super super pleased with how my confidence levels were dropping in, and I think that helped my performance a lot.
You mentioned earlier the consecutive World Cup big air wins that you've had. They're quite different events from what I can tell, though. One big jump as opposed to a series of tricks. But did those wins in the big air give you confidence in the slopestyle? And does that confidence translate across events?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the big air and slopestyle are quite separate these days. It's a lot harder to combine, 3 different jumps and 3 different rails all connected into one run, and to perfect all of them going down, versus just standing at the top and, getting ready to just do one trick, one run, one jump. Slopestyle is definitely a lot harder, but, it's all connected and it all helps.
So as it turned out, you won gold on your first run in the slopestyle, which was flawless. Tell us about that and what was going through your mind during that run.
Yeah, I mean, I did my first run in the first round. So there were 2 rounds in this competition, which was a bit of a new format for us. But I had really nailed my first run, and I was super proud of myself. I definitely had a couple of things I could step up to, which was exciting. I had a decent score in the first round, but on my second run in the first round, I landed it even better, and I bumped up my run a little bit, and I was expecting my score to go up just a couple of points, and then I moved up into first place going into the final round, which meant I got to drop last, which was pretty incredible. And I was scared. I was scared for that first run of the finals. I had so much adrenaline pumping, and I was scared I was going to mess something up, but it was yeah, it was pretty nice to get through the top section clean on the rails, because that's kind of what I struggle with a little bit more. And then once I got to the jump, my confidence really kicked in, and I just wanted to put on a good show for everyone. And then to get to the bottom and get an amazing high score was just incredible.
So good. So early on in the competition that you weren't expecting to compete in, and you see your name at the top with a huge score, what did that do to your nerves and maybe your adrenaline for the rest of the competition?
I think the adrenaline was going the whole time. I mean, just being out here at X Games and, having a huge crowd at the bottom has just been absolutely insane. This whole week has been incredible. I've had, so much energy and just been so happy. So, the adrenaline was definitely going, but it definitely went into overdrive after that first run for sure.
And did you feel like this performance was coming on recent form?
I wasn't sure. It's never something that I'm focusing on. I'm not focusing on winning the gold. I'm more focusing on, myself, my skiing, and doing the best that I can do, pushing myself to my limit. And, I think that probably helps me a lot coming into these competitions. And, yeah.
So we're going to see you again this afternoon in the Big Air, your preferred event. Have your ambitions changed now, Luca? Now you've got the gold and the slope style safely tucked away?
Definitely not. I mean, it's been absolutely incredible winning this gold, and it's made me feel a lot of joy and happiness. But I'm trying to focus in for tonight again. I'd love to walk away with another medal tonight, but it's gonna be hard. There's gonna be a lot of big tricks, few world's firsts being put down tonight. And X Games, X Games is where everyone pulls out everything, So it's definitely going to be a challenge tonight, but I'm super excited to go and put down my tricks and see what the judges think of it.
And if we look slightly further ahead, Winter Olympics next year in Italy, how much of a goal are they for you?
Yeah, it's definitely bouncing towards the idea of the Olympics, for sure. But, I'm still just trying to focus on this season, to stay healthy, to keep getting some strong results. And then we can look at getting closer to the Olympics next year.
And just to finish with this win, I suppose now you're in the position where you've got two preferred events, the Big Air and the slopestyle. So will this add to your schedule moving forward?
Not really. I mean, I try to specialize in both of them, honestly. I was lucky enough this year to excel a little bit more earlier this season in the Big Airs, but, slopestyle is still also my favorite event to do as well, just as equal as Big Air, if not more. So, the schedule hasn't changed. We're still going to be doing all of the slopestyles and all of the Big Airs and seeing where we can get with that.
Well, Luca, congratulations on this latest gold medal. It was something that gave us a very, very pleasant surprise yesterday when we learned that you and Zoe Sadowski-Synnott had both won gold at the X Games. You made a lot of new fans over here. We look forward to seeing how you go tonight and further down the track. Thanks so much for joining us for a chat.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate all the support coming out of New Zealand. It's been incredible, the amount of messages I've been receiving, so thank you all so much.
Good man, Luca. Thanks indeed. Luca Harrington there. Aspen X Games gold medalist in the men's slopestyle, about to go in the Big Air in about 2 or 3 hours. So who knows, he may add to his collection of X Games medals. 2:20. Let's take a break. When we come back, it's to the Tour Down Under. A bunch of Kiwis involved, including Finn Fisher-Black, who is currently third heading into the final stage of this 6-stage race in Adelaide. Del Woodford, our cycling analyst, going to break it down for us next.
The biggest names in sport are on Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes, New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
Coming up, 2:24, Ecuador's Jonathan Naves leads the general classification heading into the final stage of cycling's Tour Down Under in Adelaide today.
Platt is going to try and defend the position. Here comes Naves.
And is he going to take on Plappy on the corner because Onley is going to challenge and being pushed back. Naves is going to win this. He said, I like the climb. It suits me, and there's no arguing that now. As Naves comes around the corner, gets the victory, gets the 10-second bonus. he will take the ochre jersey tonight.
Yes, so Naves holds a 9-second lead over the previous leader, Spain's Javier Romo. Kiwi Finn Fisher-Black, third overall, just 12 seconds behind the leader. Finn Fisher-Black's had 2 podium finishes so far on the tour, and fellow Kiwi Corbin Strong has had 3 top 10 finishes. The 6th and final stage is flat, 20 laps through a circuit of central Adelaide, meaning the result is very much still up in the air. Let's bring in cycling analyst Del Woodford. Del, heading into the final stage, as I mentioned, Kiwi Finn Fisher-Black third. How likely is it that he could make up the 12 seconds and win the tour?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. It'd be pretty difficult, I think, on that circuit. It's a 4-kilometre circuit. It's super fast. Often a little break will go away to try and pick up there's 2 intermediate sprints, which will, I think they'll have some time bonuses on them, I'd imagine. So unless he can sneak away, but his team has also got Sam Welsford on it, winner of the first two stages of the tour. He's an equal first in the points competition, so they'll be a little bit focused to try and get him the points jersey and hold Finn's third place. I would say to keep him on the podium. They'll be more interested in maintaining that podium and getting Welsford into the sprint jersey. But it's bike racing, a lot can happen, and Finn has certainly shown the kick he put up Wollonga Hill to get up to that third place yesterday, and that was something pretty special. So if he's in with a chance, they will certainly have to watch him in the closing stages for sure, because he will be trying, I would imagine.
Where is Finn Fisher-Black in his career arc at the moment, Del? Is he, give us a bit of an insight into where he is in his pro cycling career right now?
Oh, I think he's just ready to step up another level. We saw him take some victories last year, and he was in the part of the UAE team with Tadej Pogačar, moving to the new super team Red Bull. He'll get some more opportunity, and it's great they've given it to him so early in the season, so they're obviously looking for him to target some of the early season races. I haven't looked at his program going forward, Jason, but he's a huge talent. He's ready, I think, he already has taken on some of the best in the world, and I really think we'll see him step up again this season and next season. Everything goes his way, and you need a little bit of luck. You need to get starts in the right races, be injury-free at the right time, but we know what he can do. We've seen it since he was a junior, and just seeing him race this week, the maturity he's shown this week to back himself and take on the best at the Tour Down Under, I think his trajectory is heading in the right direction for a number of years yet.
Yeah, that's great to hear. He's not the only Kiwi, of course, on the tour. I mentioned Corbin Strong, but others as well. Who else among the Kiwi riders have impressed you?
Yeah, it's big, isn't it? 8 riders on the tour, if we include, Robert Standard, who rides under the Australian flag, but of course out of Palmerston North and Palmerston North Boys High, so we'll always claim him. Well, I think, it's hard. It's the first race of the year. Who's impressed? Lawrence Pithy's done a good job, looking after Finn Fisher-Black and that Red Bull team, particularly yesterday when it split in the crosswinds. There was a little bit of panic, and it just shows how quickly a race can change. I think he's rid really well. As you mentioned, Corbin Strong, I rate Corbin as probably our best chance to pick up a Tour de France stage win. He's always there or thereabouts in the sprints. He's nuggety on the climbs. Very smart bike rider. I've said it many times. He reminds me a lot of Ali Babiani, and showing great form early in the season, as you said, with in the intro, with a number of placings in the top 10 already. 3 in the top 10 in this tour. So he'll get better as the season goes on as well, and I think he'll bring us a big victory. Aaron Gate stepping up. I think Gate will be a good chance this afternoon, riding for first time in the World Tour with the Astana team. A lot of new riders in that team, so they're struggling a little bit to get fully organised. But in this type of race, the experience of Aaron Gate, he doesn't need a big team around him. I think he'll be right in the mix this afternoon and trying to go for a stage win or certainly a podium. The other riders, Dion Smith with his experience, Campbell Stewart, George Bennett doing a good job for Israel Premier Tech, trying to set up them for the GC. Tried really hard, just didn't go their way. So all our riders are performing really well, and to have 8 at the opening race of the World Tour on the start line is pretty special for New Zealand.
Just back to Finn Fisher-Black then, with regards to the Tour de France. I know Kiwis there last year. Could a podium here help him into a place in the Tour de France?
I don't think he'll be in the Tour de France team for UAE this year. It's probably a couple of years away. They'll have their 8 riders pretty much stamped in for the tour with their program around Tadej Pogačar. Although, that it's so early in the year, lots can happen. Riders can get injured, things can crash, lots of things can change. So he would be on the long list, I would say, Piney, for that. If something happened to a rider, he's a great rider to bring in. He's strong time trials. He's got a good finish. But I think they really want riders that can hang around Pogačar in the mountains. I think Corbin Strong may be a more likely start, and possibly George Bennett this year might get another crack at the Tour de France.
Let's hope so. This is the first real hit out of the year for a lot of these teams and these cyclists. How much of a bearing does this race have when those teams are selecting their cyclists for the Grand Tours?
There's a little bit, just to see how they might work together. You don't know what the directors might be looking for. Like Brian Cocard rides for Cofidis. He's certainly going to be one of their key men in the Tour de France for stage wins. There's a few opportunities for sprinters this year, so teams that haven't got anyone that can compete in, say, the top 5 for the general classification will be looking at riders in this race to see what opportunities there will be for them in a race like the Tour or the Giro d'Italia. And a lot of the riders, the teams will also be looking at the form at this part of the season to see what they can build on for the Spring Classics and which riders might be able to slot into those. So even though it's super early in the season, a lot of the main riders are still in Europe training and preparing. But for the younger riders and the riders coming through, it gives the directors a really good understanding of how they might be able to gel into a squad or take some opportunities. Like look at Lawrence Pithy in this race, what he did last year at the Spring Classics. He'll be using this race, doing all the work for Finn and Sam Welsford, but he's using that to build the big engine to have a crack in those Spring Classics in April.
For a while, you mentioned George Bennett there before. He's been our one cycling hope, I guess, to follow, and he's done so well. Still riding, of course, but this next generation seems to be coming through now. We've mentioned Finn Fisher-Black, Corbin Strong, Lawrence Pithy you've mentioned a couple of times. How are they looking as a collective, to ride us forward, if you like?
They're looking great, aren't they, really? Like, if you look at it, we've also, Michael Bink, he's a bit older, he's 31 or 32, but he's riding for UAE. He's another rider that we've got on the World Tour. It's pretty impressive. And, if we could just get the way the sports work with points, we don't get a lot of riders on the start line at the World Champs. If you look at all those names you mentioned, the experience with Dion Smith in there as well, we've actually got a pretty strong team that could line up if we had national teams lining up in events and be really competitive against some of the big powerhouse nations. So, for New Zealand road cycling, a lot of these guys, they haven't come out of Gady hasn't, but, the other guy in Campbell Stewart, but, pretty much George and the guys that are, Pithy, they've done it through the road. They've gone there, they've done the hard yards and taken their opportunities on the road to succeed. So, what that does, that inspires the next generation coming through. We're seeing, the New Zealand Cycling Project boys racing in the US, looking for opportunities in Europe. And because of having so many at that level, it means teams start to think about now, I wonder what other New Zealanders might be available. So they start to sort of spread the net a little wider. And then, of course, with all the swift and online racing and competition, sort of like on an esports side, they're keeping an eye on that. You never know who comes out of that, and we've got some really good riders competing internationally in that space as well.
Looking globally, the Tour de France always jumps out, doesn't it? 112th edition this year, starting on the 5th of July in Lille and finishing up in Paris, obviously, later in the month. What sort of storylines do you expect to be written in the Tour de France this year? I guess what I'm asking is, can anyone beat Tadej Pogačar?
Jonas Vingegaard, possibly, but outside of that, it's a race for third place on the podium. If those two go into the race fit, healthy, and stay crash-free throughout the race, I think it'll be a two-horse race, but it's 3 weeks, 21 days, and a lot can happen. But where we sit right now, Jason, it's super hard to see anybody taking them on. They just seem to be a whole level above. It's another tour with a lot of climbs. I can't see anyone pushing those two riders out. We saw Vingegaard pushing Tadej Pogačar last year, coming off a horrendous injury. So, both of those going into the tour with peak form. I think we'll see some battle royals in the mountains, throw Remco Evenepoel in there as well. But I think they're all sort of trying to hang on and get as close as they can, limit their losses and concentrate on the battle for the podium.
Good man, Dell. Always enjoy chatting cycling with you. We'll keep an eye out for Finn Fisher-Black this afternoon. Hopefully he can finish on the podium. Thanks as always for taking the time for a chat.
Pleasure, Jason. Anytime. Thank you.
All the best, mate. Del Woodford there, our cycling analyst, a fairly familiar voice to cycling fans. And yeah, Finn Fisher-Black is in third place, 12 seconds behind the leader, Ecuador's Jonathan Naves, as they head into the final stage of cycling's Tour Down Under in Adelaide. Sixth and final stage is flat, 20 laps through a circuit of central Adelaide. So 12 seconds, as you heard Del say, is a little bit difficult to make up in a stage like that, but anything can happen, and a finish on the podium would be a great way to start the year for Finn Fisher-Black out of Nelson. Pretty impressive cycling family, with sister Neve also doing great things around the world in a cycling sense. 25-3. It's not going very, very well for the Central Hinds in their chase for 136 to beat Canterbury down in Christchurch. They're 19-3 after 5 overs. So Canterbury, who need to win this game in order to stay alive in the Super Smash finals equation, doing pretty well at the moment. 135 for 6 they made, Central 19 for 3 in reply. When we come back, it's to football. We'll get you inside the Auckland FC camp. They take on the Western Sydney Wanderers tonight from 7 in Parramatta in Western Sydney. Logan Rogerson out of the Auckland FC camp after this.
Don't get caught offside. Call 0800 80 1080. Weekend Sports with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes. New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
21-3, Auckland FC back in A-League men's football action tonight away to Western Sydney. It's their third game in 9 days. Auckland FC grabbed a point in their top-of-the-table clash away at Adelaide on Wednesday night. A last-minute equaliser from Logan Rogerson.
We're about to move into the 100th minute of this match. Francis de Vries. Paulson's forward. In it comes, near post, they've scored! And did Steve Corica enjoy that? Logan Rogerson stooping at the near post to head home, and the Auckland FC fans get to celebrate as well.
Logan Rogerson is with us ahead of Auckland FC's game tonight against Western Sydney. Let's start, though, on Wednesday night. Logan, talk us through your equaliser. We just heard it there. Francis de Vries lines up the corner, so maybe you pick it up for us from there.
Yeah, obviously quite late on in the game. One last set piece, and Francis with, a dead ball situation. It's probably one of the best in the league. So, I thought we had a real good chance to score here. My kind of role in the corner is trying to block the goalkeeper, and the ball kind of came in so quick, and I was free at the near post and managed to get my head on it. So now it was a good ball from Franny, and real pleased to score quite late in the game after a pretty arm wrestle of a game.
Arm wrestle's a good word for it, man. Real roller coaster, particularly near the end when you're 1-0 up, then 2-1 down. Did you feel as though you were worth a point in Adelaide?
Yeah, I think we didn't deserve to lose. I think the team worked real hard, and we put in a solid performance, and I think we were a little bit unlucky maybe with the first goal and that we conceded, and I think a result was fair, and it's just the way we equalised in the end. We can carry on that momentum into our next game.
It's a bit of a trademark of Auckland FC. 8 goals after the 80-minute mark this season to win matches or draw them. What can we take from that in terms of the team's ability to take games right to the line and pick up points?
Yeah, I think it just kind of shows the mentality of the team. We have great depth, I guess, in our squad, and whenever our substitutes have come on, they've made a good difference. And even the guys that start, they work hard, and we grind out, maybe for the first hour. Then the substitutes bring the energy, and have come on and done real well. So I think it's got a lot to do with the mentality of the boys, kind of never giving up, and I think our squad depth as well. These guys coming off the bench, and I've had to do it as well this season, and I think it makes a big difference.
I don't remember you scoring with your head too often either. I think your first A-League goal for the Phoenix was a header, but is it a bit of a rarity for you to score with your head or not?
Yeah, I think so. Like I was saying before, my my role in the corner is to kind of just block the goalkeeper and stand in the way and let, the big guys do all the headering. But, so, I'm happy to score with my head. And, you're probably right. I don't score a few too many.
Slightly,
happy.
Slightly different attacking setup in the last two games as well, with both Guillermo Mai and Max Mata starting. So kind of more like, I guess, twin number 9s. How does that change your role in an attacking sense?
Yeah, I think, it kind of gives us an extra option. Obviously, me, when I'm playing out wide, it gives me another target to kind of aim for. Max is very good in the air, and, he causes a lot of problems. And even in terms of build-up, I think we can, when we do go a little bit longer, 2 strikers to work with each other is a lot easier than one. So, I think it's been working well for us recently. So.
You're also the best defensive side in the competition, just 11 goals conceded. I know you look at a defence and you say, well, your keeper must be good and your back four must be good, and those things are true. But what role do you and the other attacking players play in the side's defensive performance?
Yeah, I think, Steve and Danny, from the beginning of the season were, made sure us attackers, played our role defensively. And, I think as attackers, we work really hard on the defensive side as well, pressing and kind of getting back and, kind of making it hard for teams to break down. And I think, that's probably why we score. When we have scored quite late in the games, it's probably because, attacking players and the whole unit have been kind of working hard for kind of the first 60 minutes defending. And, then the game kind of opens up. So, yeah, I think, as attackers, and especially in this team, we have to, work hard defensively as well. And, I think it's probably why, we've been quite hard to score against.
And you've played 90 minutes in the last 2 games in pretty close proximity to one another in terms of the days in between them. I don't think you'd done that previously all season, had 90 minutes. Is that something you've worked on, not just being, say, a 60-minute player or someone who provides an impact off the bench?
Yeah, I think, as a football player, you always want to play 90 minutes. And, I think for the first bit of the season, kind of the 60-minute mark, and, when the board goes up, I kind of look over and see my number and, obviously a little bit disappointed. But, I think the last couple of weeks, I think my fitness as well, I've gotten a little bit fitter and been able to, maintain the kind of level that's needed for 90 minutes, where maybe in the first half, first kind of a quarter of the season, first half of the season, maybe my fitness was kind of dropping off towards the end. And so yeah, I think, I've been happy recently to being able to play, 90 minutes. And obviously when you play 90 minutes, it kind of gives you, more opportunities towards the end, like the last game, to, get your head on something or, to score goals.
But another game has come around pretty quickly, so 3rd game in 9 days, plus some trans-Tasman travel in there as well. Does that busy schedule start to take a bit of a toll, not necessarily just on you, but on the entire playing group?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said before, we've got great squad depth. I think, we're in every position. We've got, 2 or 3 players that are very capable of starting. So, yeah, who knows, what the starting is going to be. But, we kind of no excuses really. Every team has to travel. A lot of teams are playing games close together at this moment in time. So, yeah, obviously it does have an effect. But, it's the same for every team really.
And a bit of a quirk of the draw, there's a couple of teams you've already played twice. You haven't played Western Sydney yet until obviously tonight. They're having a bit of an up and down season. 5 wins, 5 losses, 3 draws, but always tough at home. How do you assess the threat that they'll pose to you tonight?
Yeah, I think they have real exciting attacking players. And obviously playing away at Western Sydney, they probably have, one of the best active support in the league. And, every game in the A-League is tough. We found that out against Perth when we played there. And so, yeah, I think we'll tackle the game like we tackle any other. And, yeah, every A-League opposition has the obstacles. And, yeah, it's going to be a tough game for sure, especially, if there's 3 games in close proximity.
And just to finish, I know you're focused fully on the A-League, but you've been involved in the last 3 international windows for New Zealand. You've played 5 of the last 6 All Whites games. How keen are you to be involved in March in the final push for the World Cup?
Yeah, obviously, I'm thinking about the A-League games, but you're always thinking about international duties, and, March is definitely something that, I'm trying to push towards. And, the All White squad is so competitive now, and we have such, talented attacking players. So, yeah, I think, I need to focus on playing week in, week out for my club to give me, the best opportunity to stick my hand up for the national team.
Well, you're doing a pretty good job at the moment, Logan. Congrats on what's happened so far. You probably heard the cheers for the equaliser on your side of the Tasman the other night from all the Auckland FC fans over here. All the best tonight against Western Sydney, mate, and thanks for taking the time for a chat.
No, thanks, Piney. All good.
All the best to you, mate. Logan Rogerson there, out of Auckland FC. 7 o'clock tonight, they take on the Western Sydney Wanderers. At the same time, football fans are going to have divided focus. The Wellington Phoenix women are action 7 o'clock tonight away at the Central Coast Mariners. They too scored a last-minute goal last time out.
It's in the back of the net. The goalkeeper's gone. Grace Jale gives it the extras, but it's Mania Elliott who scores direct from the corner. I saw the goalkeeper coming a long way early on. Wide of the ball. Looks as though it's deceived her.
An added time goal earning Wellington Phoenix a 3-2 win over Newcastle last weekend. That's moved them up into 5th spot. I spoke this week to Phoenix defender Tiana Jaber and asked how the feeling is in the squad after their recent good run. That was their 4th straight win at home.
It's really good. We're so proud of ourselves and really happy with all our tactics, all our training, all our gameplay, energy, belief. It's going really, really well. But there's still things to focus on. Still a lot of hard work ahead of us. So we're just still keeping focused and keeping everyone accountable.
When you talk about the stuff to work on in a defensive sense, is there anything specific that you would like as a defensive unit to be doing better?
Well, obviously more clean sheets are a goal for sure. So doing what we can to keep it clean. But I don't know, really. I'm not going to give out our secrets.
No, fair enough. I don't think it's any secret that part of your game is the physicality that you bring. Is that something that's always been part of your game?
Yeah, always. Ever since I was first starting football, playing with the boys, So that and my dad and my brother, playing footy, they've always encouraged me to be like that. Sometimes it's a bit too much, so part of growth is controlling it and making sure I'm doing it at the right moments. But it's always been part of my game. Always passionate. It's probably in my blood too, my heritage and stuff. We're just feisty, so I love a fight. Yeah.
That's great, only on the football field, hopefully. How helpful has it been, too, to be part of a fairly consistent defensive unit? I mean, it's pretty much the same players week in, week out.
Yeah, no, it feels really good because, consistency, I think, is key, especially for centre-backs, playing next to Mac, and even, playing with, Liv and Lara on the left all the time, getting into each other's flow and knowing exactly what we want to do when at the right moment. We have to be on the same page always, so it's really good. I'm really happy and, proud to be playing next to these girls. We're doing so well, so I'm really proud of them, and there's a lot of work to do, and I'm really excited for the games ahead.
And what about Carolina behind you? What kind of goalkeeper is she?
She's good. She's a bit of a brick wall. She's loud. We know exactly what she wants to do when. She's a funny girl too. So she's really good for the team. Yeah, definitely.
And consistency's been great at home. It's it hasn't been terrible away, but is there a growing strategy for getting points on the road? It didn't happen as much last year as you probably would have hoped. Is there anything that's changed to try and get more points on the road?
Maybe just making sure the heat and the pitch that we're playing at isn't a surprise, making sure we're prepared for that. We really use every part of the Porirua Park atmosphere to our advantage. So I think it's making sure nothing throws us off our game, making sure we're all just getting there. It's just a game, but we have to make sure we're all gunning for the win, no matter what the pitch is no matter who's in the stands. I think we just got to stay focused, really.
It was the Adelaide game, wasn't it? Terrible pitch in a hot day. What was that like?
It was really rough, to be honest. That was a hard one mentally as well, just to keep pushing. But, I think anyone would agree, from the first minute till the last, we were still trying to play. And I think we definitely put Adelaide under pressure in the last 30 minutes for sure. I think they felt it. We were coming. And that's, I think, what we do really, really well. So I think all teams need to be afraid of that.
Right. And Mania Elliott scores in the 99th minute direct from a corner the other day to get you 3 points against Newcastle. What are the emotions like when that ball hits the net?
I honestly wanted to do like cartwheels. Like I was jumping for joy. I'm so proud of her. It was amazing, honestly. And like just to get that win for the crowd and to set that record, like my heart, like we're just so happy and so proud. And it was amazing. Honestly, amazing.
Love that. And do you look at the table? I mean, do you like say, okay, well, if we get 3 points here, we're here and here?
Yeah, no, definitely. Every time we win a game, we look at the table and we're like, bloody hell, like there's still so much work to do. The table's really tight, so there's no room for slipping up, no room for dozing off, to be honest. There's so much work to do each week. So we get the points and we keep moving ahead, keep building that momentum, but the next game that comes up, we've got to that's done now. We've got another job ahead of us.
That is the voice of Tiana Jaber, Wellington Phoenix defender, ahead of their next assignment tonight, 7 o'clock against the Central Coast Mariners over on the Central Coast of New South Wales. 7 away from 3. News Talk ZB.
When it's down to the line, you make the call on 0800 80 1080. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine. News Talk ZB.
4 to 3, that's Weekend Sport for today. The Weekend Collective to follow after 3. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks hugely to Andy McDonald for producing the show. Exit song today. Paul Newman was born 100 years ago today. Not with us anymore, but leaves a legacy of films and businesses behind, including The Sting, the 1973 movie he starred in with Robert Redford. Here's the theme song from The Sting. It's called The Entertainer. Back on Sports Talk tomorrow night from 7. See you then.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.